It's Monday, it's 10 o'clock, I'm Joanna Gosling. Women considering getting breast implants should be warned about the risks of breast implant illness, leading surgeons have told this programme. That's despite there being no official diagnosis of the condition. A number of women have told us about debilitating symptoms they have suffered.
It's been absolutely horrific, the amount of pain and suffering that I've had to go through, and going to clinics and hospitals and doctors and saying to them I'm so ill, and they're just saying that it's not to do with the implant.
We'll speak to 5 women who say they've suffered from the condition, and a plastic surgeon who wants patients to get more information about the risks of implants. Tomorrow, we will know which of these 2 men is going to be our next Prime Minister. It's a tumultuous week ahead in politics.
All change at Westminster, or same old, with a new man in number 10, but same old Brexit deadlock, and a new leader of the Lib Dems, but same old also-rans of politics.
Meanwhile, Jeremy Corbyn may be facing a no-confidence vote by Labour members of the House of Lords. We will speak to 2 Labour peers. And England win bronze at the Netball World Cup.
This bronze medal isn't a consolation for us. Look, world netball at the moment is as tight as it's ever been. We knew that we would get what we deserve at the end of the day, and it was a bronze medal, this World Cup. It was a bronze medal.
We will speak to England's most capped player, Jade Clark, about that match and about what comes next. Hello, welcome to the programme. We're live until 11 this morning. Do get in touch on everything we're talking about. #VictoriaLive. If you're emailing and you're happy for us to contact you and maybe want to take part in the programme, please include your phone number in your message. And remember, text will be charged at the standard network rate. First, Carrie Gracie has a summary of the news. Morning.
Thanks, Joanna. Morning to you. Leading surgeons have told this programme that women having breast implants should be warned about a condition linked to chronic pain and extreme fatigue. Tens of thousands of women on online forums say they've suffered what's become known as breast implant illness. Patients have said they were never told about the problem. Some have returned to full health only after having their implants removed. We'll have much more on this in the programme shortly. It's the final day of voting to decide who'll be the next Prime Minister. Conservative Party members have until 5 this evening to return their ballots, choosing between Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson. The winner will be announced tomorrow, with the new Prime Minister in place at number 10 by Wednesday afternoon. This morning, Sir Alan Duncan's resigned as a government minister. And the Liberal Democrats will announce the result of their leadership contest this afternoon. Ed Davey and Joe Swinson are vying for the position after the current leader, Sir Vince Cable, said in March that he'd be stepping down. Theresa May will chair a meeting of the government's emergency committee, COBRA, in the next half hour to decide how to deal with Iran's seizure of a British oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. Troops from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard boarded the ship on Friday after Tehran said it was violating international maritime rules. The Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, is expected to press for an international diplomatic response. The security firm G4S has made more than £14 million in profit for running an immigration removal site at the centre of abuse allegations. 6 members of staff were dismissed from Brook House near Gatwick following incidents of verbal and physical abuse filmed by the BBC's Panorama programme 2 years ago. The Home Office said it was working with G4S to make improvements. Dozens of masked men armed with batons have stormed a train station in Hong Kong, injuring 45 people, one of them critically. Social media footage shows the men dressed in white T-shirts attacking passengers on platforms and inside carriages. Earlier in the day, riot police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters at another pro-democracy rally in Hong Kong's centre. The attack on the train station happened much closer to the border with China. Here, a senior Whirlpool executive has apologised to customers affected by dangerous tumble dryers sold for 11 years in the UK. Vice President Jeff Knowles said the firm is now offering free replacements or partial refunds after an earlier programme of repairs was judged insufficient. And it's Prince George's 6th birthday today. Kensington Palace has marked the occasion, releasing some new photographs. One of the pictures, they were all taken by the Duchess of Cambridge, shows Prince George in an England football shirt, and another shows the young prince on holiday. Happy birthday, Prince George. Now, back to Joanna.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Leading surgeons have told this programme that women having breast implants like this one should be warned about a condition linked to chronic pain and extreme fatigue. Tens of thousands of women on online forums claim they have suffered from what is known as breast implant illness. It's not an official diagnosis, and there is currently little scientific evidence that implants cause the symptoms. Although the drug regulation body in the US, the FDA, has begun to investigate the link. Patients have told this programme they were never warned about the condition, and some have returned to full health after having their implants removed. Surgeons say more research is needed, but patients should be warned about the condition. Anna Collinson has this exclusive report.
Naomi MacArthur is 5'2" and can lift double her weight. She's a fitness instructor and is proud of her strength. But just 5 months ago, her life was very different.
So yeah, I'm terrified. But I think... Sorry?
In November 2014, Naomi decided to get breast implants. She knew she looked great, but she felt like she was dying.
I had the most horrific symptoms. Like, I remember I started getting like severe pains in my stomach, like gut problems. The tiredness that I felt, it almost felt like I had like ran a marathon and dug like a million trenches and like done loads of stuff, and I hadn't done anything. I was writing with a pen. I said to my mum, like, I actually can't write, it's too hard. Like, writing with a pen was that tiring.
Naomi changed her diet and made lifestyle changes, but the symptoms kept coming, including hair loss, allergies and rashes.
Sorry. It's just like every time I think about it, it upsets me.
Of course.
I knew I'd get emotional doing this.
Take your time, we can stop whenever you want.
It's been like absolutely horrific, like the amount of pain and like suffering that I've had to go through, and going to clinics and like hospitals and doctors and saying to them like I'm so ill, and they're just like saying that it's not to do with the implants.
Last summer, Naomi discovered breast implant illness, a condition which consists of a broad range of autoimmune symptoms. She joined online support groups and soon found that there were tens of thousands of other women like her. She decided to start a video diary.
Like, if I'd gone to the clinic before I had my breast surgery and they'd told me that, you know, you can develop autoimmune conditions, I would have never had implants. And I think people need to be more aware of this. About to go down and I'm scared.
Naomi made the difficult decision to pay thousands of pounds to have her implants removed. There was no guarantee her health would improve.
Hopefully it's for the best.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be for the best.
I'm alive. Not to you guys.
Very quickly, the symptoms that had plagued Naomi's life for the past 4 years disappeared.
I can't believe how bloody amazing I feel and how much I've bounced back. It's insane, and like I said, my eyes are gone completely like white. Like, what the hell? I had completely bloodshot eyes all the time, and my eyes are white now. This is crazy.
But despite stories like Naomi's, there's still scepticism in parts of the medical community. I spoke to one surgeon who said he does not believe that breast implant illness is a thing. How does it feel hearing something like that?
I find that really, actually saying that is kind of a bit offensive. I feel a bit offended by it really, because I know that like what I experienced was real. Like, who are you going to believe, the surgeon or who's making money, or the thousands of other women who are ill?
There have been more than 1 million breast implant operations in the UK, and most of them have turned out well. But complications can arise which can ruin lives. Complications which some women say they were never warned about. Consultant plastic surgeon Nora Nugent has helped patients like Naomi.
Breast implant illness is poorly recognised, to be perfectly honest. It's where women have a series of symptoms, and they can vary from person to person. They haven't conclusively proven that silicone causes direct harm to the body's tissues or causes these reactions. But there are not very many studies directly studying these effects. And if you get an improvement after having your implants removed, then clearly that was the right course of action to take.
Going forward, do you think all surgeons should be warning their patients about breast implant illness?
Ideally, yes. I think I think patients need the most up-to-date information possible.
Leading surgeons, including the British Association of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons, have told this programme that women should be told about the risk of breast implant illness ahead of surgery, despite there still being limited scientific evidence. Anyone who believes they may have the condition is advised to see their GP, but removing an implant does not guarantee improved health. Breast implant illness has been being discussed amongst women for decades. Do you think it's shocking that we still don't know exactly what it is and what's going on?
I think it's quite disappointing that we don't have all the answers, but I think it's encouraging that we are still looking for the answers.
Hundreds of thousands of women were affected by the PIP implant scandal, which broke in 2010. The implants were twice as likely to rupture and were filled with silicone used in mattresses. 6 years later, a national safety implant register was set up, and women are encouraged to join it so they can be traced if something goes wrong in the future. It's hoped it will also lead to a better understanding of breast implant illness. Naomi and I have come to meet a woman who is preparing to have her implants removed, also known as explanted.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Steph. Nice to meet you. Naomi.
Hi, Naomi. Nice to meet you.
Steph Harris has tried 3 different types of implants and each time has experienced autoimmune symptoms.
This is one of my explanted implants I've got here. So this was my original PIP implant that I had first time round.
Steph previously had breast cancer, but her doctors believe her symptoms, the chronic fatigue and pain, are implant related. It's cost her a lot, including being a nurse.
It's so isolating. I spend 90% of my time alone, lying down in my bed. I can't read for very long. I can't write things for very long. My memory really struggles with it. I watch movies, and that's what I do 90% of the time. And then people see me like this with my makeup on and up, and they think, well, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you. But only those that are really close to me see that after this, I'll be in bed for 2 days because I'm running on adrenaline right now. To deal with the breast cancer was one thing, but to be honest, that was easier. That's going to sound really strange. The chemotherapy was much easier to deal with than the chronic fatigue. And I know that for a lot of people that will just sound completely ridiculous, but I guess I'm unique. I can say I've been through both, and this is harder.
The UK's medical devices watchdog has told us more than 1,500 adverse incidents involving breast implants have been reported in the past 5 years. It currently does not recognise breast implant illness. Steph wants the MHRA's reporting system to be made more accessible so the true scale of implant complications are known. Steph, you're having your explant on the 15th of July,
Yes.
So a few weeks' time. Naomi, have you got any advice for her?
Completely understand how horrible it is.
I'll be phoning you going, oh, I'm worried about this.
Yeah, I know. But it's literally like what kind of like made me feel better about it all was just like knowing that, like thinking about next year.
That's it. I've been, it's dreaming about things like that, like going for a walk. And yeah, if I could get back to work, even if I just get a little bit more energy to just make life a bit easier, it would be fantastic.
You know, like in the end, like health is the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's now a week since Steph had her implants removed. She says she's feeling pretty good and has already been for a few gentle walks. She's hopeful about the future.
Well, with me now in the studio, Michelle Breeden, who had her implants removed only 10 days ago because of the impact of breast implant illness, the symptoms that they were having on her life. Kate Michalkova says she's been living with breast implant illness for 3 years now and is currently saving up to have her implants removed. Annette Stevens believes she had breast implant illness and says her symptoms were so bad she wished she would die. She had her implants removed 2 years ago. Sarah Beach says she has lived with breast implant illness symptoms for years. Dr. Una Coles is a former GP who had her implants removed in January because she believes they were making her ill. And we're also joined by Mr. Naveen Cavale, who is a plastic surgeon at the NHS's King's College Hospital and the UK's National Secretary for the International Society of Plastic Surgery. Thank you all very much indeed for coming in. First of all, ladies, if you wouldn't mind just listing the symptoms that you've had over the years, starting with you, Michelle.
Too many to list, I'll take up the whole show, but just my most chronic ones were joint pain, muscle pain, neck pain, chronic fatigue, no sleeping at night, heart palpitations and pains going through my chest.
I had chronic fatigue, IBS symptoms, food intolerances, really bad heart palpitations at night, like a jolt to your heart. Like you have to take a really deep breath, and lately wrist and joint pain as well, and lack of concentration a lot.
Yeah.
Memory issues, my hair fell out, insomnia, aches and pains, chronic backache, swelling, body swelling, just felt like I was being poisoned and felt like I was dying and I wanted to die, suicidal.
Sarah?
My main one was anxiety, then hair loss, tinnitus, blurred vision, hip pains, fatigue, memory loss, feeling like I was dying.
Una?
I had dry eyes, very painful, blurry vision, visual field defects, esophageal ulcer, eosinophilic esophagitis, which is an allergic inflammation of the esophagus, melena, alcohol intolerance, and a rash on my back.
So really wide-ranging symptoms, and you're all absolutely convinced linked to the breast implants? Yeah,
without doubt.
Yeah. Were any of you warned at all that there may be issues arising?
No, not at all.
Okay, well, let's come through all of you and hear your individual stories, because Michelle, I said that you only had your implants taken out 10 days ago, and when we were watching Naomi in our report and she said, I'm alive after the surgery to remove the implants, you said, I know that feeling.
I do. It was. I felt euphoric. I absolutely did, because the night before I couldn't stop crying because everything had culminated to this point, and I'd had to stop coming off. I had to come off my medication that was helping me get through life, because you can't be on medication for your operation. And my husband had to virtually carry me through the hospital doors to get into the room to have, for the operation, and waking up afterwards. It was I just felt wonderful.
So
immediately.
Relief.
I still have healing to do. My joint pain's there, but just waking up and being able to take that deep breath, I think the other ladies will agree with me, it's just amazing.
Annette, was it the same for you when yours came out?
I flew to Holland to have mine taken out. No, I actually felt, well, I'm surprised I woke up actually, because I didn't want to. I was that ill. I couldn't carry on feeling so dreadfully unwell and not being believed, and no one being able to help me, because I had to literally be my own researcher, my own doctor, my own counsellor through all this. And I removed my implants over 2 years ago now, and I would say I'm about 75–80% better. I still get breast implant illness flare-ups. I still, I've got awful memories of being so ill and literally disabled, being made very vulnerable. And I had a pre-existing autoimmune disease. I had underactive thyroid diagnosed 6 months prior. So I kept blaming all my symptoms on that, and obviously stresses of life, but I felt I was being poisoned, and obviously it took me 6 months to digest the information after finding these support groups on Facebook with women that were also feeling as unwell as I was, and it was the light bulb moment that just reassured me that I had no option. I had to have them removed.
What was the situation for you, Sarah? Because you had 3 sets of implants over 30 years, and I know that throughout most of that period your health was suffering?
At least 20 years. I think it all started when I had my first rupture. I was pregnant on my second child, and the doctor said, oh, it's just because you're pregnant, and it was solid, and I kept going back to the doctor with pains, and she said, oh, it'll be fine once you gave birth. I thought I had chronic fatigue for 2 years. Eventually, my son was about 8 months. I thought, I need to.
So you were having health issues. You had an implant rupture.
Mm-hmm.
You
I had
another one put in because you no one was making the connection
No.
at that point that might be causing the issues. So you went through actually that cycle,
Yeah.
effectively
And,
three times.
Yeah, and then about 12 years later, I noticed that the same thing was happening again. But I was sick. I had all these symptoms, but I was putting it down to just being a mum, working full time, busy life, running my own business. I thought it was that, and so I was detoxing all the time.
And so when the implants were finally out after 30 years,
Yeah.
did you feel a sudden
Not
transformation?
immediate. It wasn't immediate because I didn't get off the sofa for 10 days after explant. I was very sick. I really thought I was going to die, and it was very slow. But really, I came to about a year mark, and then I started to get my health back. But I have an autoimmune disease now, and I blame the implants for that.
Kate, you're saving to get your implants removed.
Yeah.
What's it like for you?
I'm hugely involved in fitness, competing as well, so it all started there really, that I blamed it for my lifestyle, like I maybe overdid it, maybe I've trained too much, maybe I wasn't eating enough. And so I've changed my lifestyle and retired from competing, trying to get healthier and eat more, but nothing would have changed. So I've been feeling poorly for 3.5 years, really, with chronic fatigue and feeling very poorly, like all of these symptoms that we mentioned. And somewhere I stumbled upon breast implant illness, and it just kind of hit the home.
Okay, and so that was your light bulb moment, as we've heard.
I think that is me, and I then looked into, what can be done about it, because obviously several trips to GP over those years, and they found nothing. Like I would have like abnormal kidney tests or liver tests, or something would come up not normal, but it still wouldn't be like significant into like diagnosis of anything at all. So they repeated the blood test, and that was back to normal.
So, but you obviously are convinced, as the others are, it's down to the breast implants.
I am.
When do you think you'll get them out?
Hopefully in October, yeah.
Okay. Una, you actually were a GP, and you were experiencing this too, and we're hearing obviously from these women who were going to their GP or trying to find out what was going on, nothing showing up. So you, I suppose, see it from both perspectives.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
how do you feel when you hear them and obviously know your own experiences too?
Yes, when I listened to them, and I've joined that Facebook group and read all the stories and experienced it myself, so I absolutely 100% believe in breast implant illness. I shied away from silicone in 1990s. It was like nobody wanted silicone implants. So I started my first implant in 1996, Sawyer. That was approved, then it ruptured on both sides, it was withdrawn, so then I tried hydrogel, it was approved, and then it was withdrawn 3 years later, so then I tried PIP. So I feel like a bit of guinea pig for the pharmaceutical companies. And then the PIP was withdrawn, so then they put a textured silicone. My worst nightmare was silicone, and had that for 6 years, but January 2018, out of the blue, I started to have symptoms. Now, I didn't even know anything about breast implant illness. So in that whole year, I kept being referred to the hospital, different departments, whether it was GI, cardiology, lower GI for colonoscopy, and nobody linked it up. And I didn't link it up. I just thought maybe it's menopause. I have no idea what's going on with me. Until in November, I read an article about breast implant illness, joined the group, saw that everybody was having similar symptoms. But what was amazing was on explant. On explant, I looked at the rash that had been on my back that had persisted.
I think we've got a picture actually of this, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got a picture of the rash that you had prior to the implants coming out.
It was there for months. I tried steroid creams, antifungal creams, antibiotics, everything, and it was this persistent rash over the right side, which actually I had an intracapsular rupture on that side that was diagnosed on ultrasound. But when I woke up, I went to the bathroom in the hospital. and it was gone. It was like, how can a rash just suddenly that quick?
So Naveen, we're hearing all of these examples and symptoms just disappearing when the implants come out, but there is still doubt in the medical community about whether this exists. How do you see it?
I have to say, I don't doubt that anything that all of you have described, or the lady in the piece described, as being real, because who am I to believe or not believe anything that anyone tells me. Part of being a good doctor is listening. I put implants into people because they say they will make them feel better. I don't know why they'll make them feel better, but I believe that, okay, by doing this, I think I'm helping them. And for the same reason, if you turn it on its head, if someone's saying, look, having implants in is making me feel bad, and therefore having them removed is going to make me feel better, again, who am I to doubt it? So I do take issue with that doctor who just said, I don't think it's a thing.
But I hear obviously what you're saying, that you take at face value exactly what your patients say to you. In terms of a belief, though, in something for which there is no scientific evidence currently, where do you stand?
At the moment, I would like to see some evidence, because that's what I am. I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist. I go by evidence and scientific evidence and statistical evidence, I guess. I haven't seen that at the moment, but that doesn't mean to say that it isn't out there. So
therefore, do you think that anybody that goes forward for a breast implant should now be made aware of these potential concerns?
Yes, absolutely. We talk about a whole load of risks. In fact, my consultation for a breast augmentation takes longer than the actual surgery takes. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to do an operation for a breast augmentation, and my consultation quite often takes a lot longer than that, and it's one of the longest consultations that I hold for any private cosmetic surgery.
Do you talk through these issues?
I do, yes.
The breast implant illness?
It's relatively recent. It's not, we've started, so a few years ago we started talking about ALCL, which is a rare form of cancer that's associated with breast implants.
Okay.
And we're being very open about that, and it's another condition that we don't really understand. And more recently, we're really trying to just be upfront and say, look, this is something that we've had reports of. I've had patients who have, like all of you have described, that they don't feel right. I've removed their implants, they feel better. I've had one come back and say, but you left a little bit of scar behind, because I couldn't remove it at the time, it was too dangerous. So came back, again paid to have that scar tissue removed, and swore she felt that much better.
So loads of people are getting in touch with us actually while we're talking and they're listening. An anonymous texter says, I suffered from breast implant illness, ME, thyroid, intolerance to chemicals and various food and dairy products. I had to give up work as I couldn't cope anymore with the illnesses I had. After discovering a Facebook group, I had my implants removed. 2 years later, I'm back to full health. ME has gone, and I've started training to be a master's swimmer again. This illness is real. Melanie on Facebook, I have breast implant illness, been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and arthritis. I'm struggling to get the doctors to recognise my breast implant illness. They gave me lifetime guarantees and say they're 100% safe. They give you a warning that things can go wrong, but don't insist on checking you in, say, a year. You could buy a dryer today, and if it's faulty, they have to do something about it. But with the boobs, it's a different story. That's not right. People deserve more respect than that. And I'll just read a few more. Catherine on email, after my breast implants were replaced by the same surgeon in London, I now have a diagnosis of Graves' disease, hypothyroidism, and will have this autoimmune disease for the rest of my life. And I never made this connection until today on the Victoria show. So people are listening, people who still haven't heard about it. I mean, what do you all think? What would you like to happen? Who wants to go first?
When I went to see a plastic surgeon to take my implants out, to do my explant, I actually said to him, do you still put implants in? And he said, yes, I do. And I said, but why would you put them in when you can see women like myself coming to you and having to pay? Well, I paid £9,000 to have my implants taken out. You don't do that because you just want to be part of a gang, part of some make-believe group. And he said, well, there are good reasons. People have mastectomies and they want to have reconstruction. And I totally understand that. But what I think I would like to see is people being given that informed, being given enough facts that you can make an informed decision. So people can make their own decision.
Yes. Because obviously, I mean, as we've heard, more than 1 million breast implants, the majority of people don't have issues, and maybe if you'd have all been told at the beginning something negative when you, for whatever reason, were wanting the implants, you might not have.
The only
taken it
risk
fully
I
on
was
board.
told was that they could go hard. So he
Okay.
said,
What
I was told mine was safe and they would last forever. I had them for near on 14 years. Where are the studies proving that they're okay? There's loads of studies on PubMed showing that they do cause issues. You know, the manufacturers were allowed to do their own studies, and they weren't accountable. They were supposed to be accountable to the FDA, and they weren't. You know, so we're just led to believe that they're okay. Thank God for these support groups. I wouldn't be here. I don't think I would be here. Having
because
not
of,
connected.
Because you were banging your head against a brick wall.
Well, yeah,
and getting
I was
so
legally
frustrated.
being poisoned at the end of the day. Anyone, like mine now, would know that 2 plastic bags on top of your thigh, or on your thymus, your heart, your lungs,
Under your
that
muscles.
microscopically leak their contents, and they do. I had gel bleed, and that's obviously why I wasn't well. But to look at me, I was
you all
fine.
wish you hadn't had them because of what's happened. But do you think, if you can think back to the reasons for why you did it, if it had been sort of put to you as part of a bigger conversation of, you know, this is a potential issue, but it's the number of people who experience it is minuscule, would any of you have decided still to go ahead?
No way.
No, I wouldn't have gone
No
ahead.
way.
You didn't say anything, Kate, but you've still
I
gone
didn't
ahead.
say anything because I'm not saying don't have them done, but research, and because I was told they are really safe, and if I had known that there is a link to cancer and Joe possibly could be bleeding into my lymph nodes and I can become ill, I would never have them done ever. No. So what I'm saying, people need to be aware of what it can cause, and then it's their decision, really.
We're out of time. It's been great to have you all in. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I hope the continuing recovery is good. And thank you for your comments at home. Do keep them coming in. We'll try to read out some more a little bit later. Now, the latest pictures of India's second attempt to send a spacecraft to the moon have just come into us just a few minutes ago. It comes a week after a fuel leak forced the launch to be postponed. Thousands gathered at the Satish Dhawan Space Centre on an island off the coast of southern Andhra Pradesh state. If successful, the Chandrayaan-2 will become the first to land on the south pole of the moon. Now, by the end of this week, there will be a new Prime Minister in 10 Downing Street, a new leader of the Liberal Democrats as well. And the Labour leader may have faced a no confidence vote in the House of Lords. This morning, the Foreign Office Junior Minister Alan Duncan has quit. Wow. It's going to be quite a week in politics. So let's catch up with Norman Smith, who can talk us through, well, something's already happened. Alan Duncan has gone. Norman, what else is going on this week?
It's busy, 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 busy. So Alan Duncan has already quit, saying, I can't put up with Boris Johnson. I do not want to leave the EU without a deal. I'm out of here. What else is happening? Well, 4 o'clock, we will get the result of the ballot to choose a new Liberal Democrat leader. Could be Jo Swinson, could be Sir Ed Davies. Signs are it's going to be a very close race. 5 o'clock this afternoon, we will get the close of ballots for the Tory leadership. So the 4-week leadership contest will come to a close. We won't actually get the result until tomorrow morning. 12 o'clock tomorrow, Mrs May's farewell, her final PMQ session in the Commons, and then she will go to Buckingham Palace and tender her resignation. Later tomorrow afternoon, I'm guessing around 5 o'clock, outside Downing Street, we will get the new Prime Minister setting out his vision for the future. Most likely, of course, that it's going to be Boris Johnson. I mean, Wednesday. I do apologise. I'm getting confused with all the dates. And then on Thursday, we will have the parliamentary recess, which means basically MPs just head off for the long, slow summer. But for Boris Johnson, if it is Boris Johnson who's Prime Minister, he will have to get down to the hard business, not just of forming a new government, but trying to break the Brexit deadlock. Now, all the signs are from Team Johnson, their game plan is to massively ramp up no-deal planning. So they're talking about a huge public information campaign to advise and alert businesses, ordinary folk, about how they might prepare for no deal. And the thinking here is that, well, Mrs May never really did that. In fact, it now appears she didn't even threaten to leave without a deal. Team Johnson think, If they go into these negotiations deadly serious and the EU are convinced that we are ready and willing to leave without an agreement, they may be prepared to strike a deal, albeit we know when you look at someone like Sir Alan resigning this morning, Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, saying he'll go, David Gauke, another cabinet minister, saying he'll go, already building on the Tory backbenches is the Boris Johnson opposition, opposed to his premiership and opposed to no deal. So we face a ferocious parliamentary tussle when MPs come back after the summer recess.
Norman, thank you. And we've not even talked there about what's going on with Labour. Well, Labour peers are expected to meet to discuss holding a symbolic motion of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn after he sacked one of their colleagues from his front bench. Lady Hayter lost her job after she likened his handling of allegations of anti-Semitism in the party to the bunker mentality of Adolf Hitler in his final days. Labour's leadership said her remarks had been contemptible and deeply offensive. Well, with me now is Lord Desai. He signed a letter that was published in The Guardian which says Jeremy Corbyn is presiding over the most shaming period in Labour's history. And also with me, Lord Adonis, a prominent anti-Brexit campaigner and former Transport Minister. He didn't sign the letter but has been critical of the way the party has handled anti-Semitism. And we did ask to speak to a member of the Shadow Cabinet as well, but we were told no one was available this morning. Welcome, both of you. So, Lord Adonis, do you think there should be a vote of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn this week?
Well, we're profoundly unhappy with the way this whole thing has been handled. Diane Hayter is a former chairwoman of the Labour Party. I mean, you couldn't get somebody more steeped in Labour values and of greater service to the Labour Party than Diane Hayter. And apparently, Jeremy Corbyn didn't even speak to her when he decided that he didn't want her to continue. This is no way to conduct the affairs of a great party. And I can tell you that the Labour Party in the House of Lords is very, very unhappy. And we're mystified, really, because how can this kind of standard of poor behaviour be allowed to continue? It's not what we expect in a country like ours. I'm afraid it typifies what's happening in Brexit Britain at the moment.
So
all the norms are being discarded.
Would you support, because it's being discussed today by Labour peers, would you support a vote of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, I'm going to be very much guided by the discussion. What I don't like making is futile gestures. There's no point in a futile gesture that doesn't lead to anything.
It would be a strong gesture, though,
well,
wouldn't it?
Well, that's the issue to be discussed, is whether it can be a strong gesture.
But why do you doubt it? Why do you think it would be futile?
Well, because there are 150 or so Labour peers, and there are 300,000 Labour Party members, and the situation we're in, which I think is a really serious situation for our democracy, is that there's now a serious breach between the Labour Party in Parliament, not just in the House of Lords, but also the House of Commons, and Labour members in the country. Now, there was a survey in the Times this morning that showed that Labour members in the country are also becoming very unhappy with the way that the party leadership is dealing with anti-Semitism and Brexit. But the only way, because of the peculiar changes we made to our constitution, which mean that the leadership is now entirely chosen by activists, unless the activists move, we can't actually change the leadership.
So before I bring in Lord Desai, I mean, I hear what you're saying about your caveats around not wanting to do something that is futile, but it sounds like you are deeply unhappy, and therefore, if you think it's going to make a difference, I'm assuming you will go ahead and support this vote of no confidence.
Well, if the general will of the Labour peers is that the way that we should stand up for Diane Hayter and make it clear that
but what is your will? What would you like if you were guiding everybody? What would you say should be done? The vote of no confidence.
Do I have confidence in the leadership of the Labour Party at the moment? No. I mean, I can be quite open about that. Is it a sensible step for us to start taking making big declarations and all that? I'm not sure yet is the answer, because, as I say, because of the way that we've changed our own constitution as a party, it's actually the party activists who will decide what happens with leadership. We ourselves don't have any power over this.
Lord Desai, do you want to vote of no confidence?
I most probably will. I'm saying most probably will because we have to have discussion. It is very likely we may not put in a confidence motion. Things are moving very fast, and we may do more on Diane Hayter, our feeling about Diane Hayter, defending her, and some peers don't want to have. But if there was a vote for no confidence in the leadership, I would say I have no confidence in the leadership. That does not constitutionally have any meaning whatsoever. But it is a gesture. It is a declaration by me personally that I'm very unhappy with the way the Labour Party is going on.
And for you, I mean, you're both obviously linking it to what happened with Baroness Hayter and her being sacked after describing what's going on around the party leadership as being bunker mentality. Is that the tipping point for you, or is it the anti-Semitism? You signed that letter last week, that open letter.
It was much before Diane Hayter was sacked. I mean, I've been feeling very uncomfortable for a very long time about the anti-Semitism. And I said that in our peers meeting in the Labour Party about a year ago, that although I'm not a Jew, I belong to a minority, and even if I did not belong to a minority, I'm unhappy about this sort of racism. And I think racism has no place in the Labour Party.
So today, or yesterday, Jeremy Corbyn wrote to Labour Party members saying, a section of the party website is now hosting educational material, and he wants everyone to go on there and to look at what should be done, what the approach should be. He himself has said, hatred towards Jewish people is rising in many parts of the world. Our party is not immune from that poison, and we must drive it out from our movement. While other political parties and some of the media exaggerate and distort the scale of the problem in our party, we must face up to the unsettling truth that a small number of Labour members hold anti-Semitic views and a larger number don't recognise anti-Semitic stereotypes and conspiracy theories. He says the evidence is clear enough. The worst cases of anti-Semitism in our party have included Holocaust denial, crude Jewish banker stereotypes, conspiracy theories, blaming Israel for 9/11. I could go on. I'm reading out a lot, but I want to say, you know, he's put out this strong statement. He says, "I have learned so much. I hope you will too, so that together we can fight these evils."
Can I say on this, that statement itself is quite unsatisfactory.
Why?
Because what he says is that those people who have been criticising the handling of anti-Semitism inside the party have exaggerated it. That is in the statement. People have exaggerated it. And in particular, the very good BBC documentary that was done 2 weeks ago, where party staffers who'd been in charge of dealing with these cases had made clear that their position had been undermined.
So for you, that sentence of it just
it's not exaggerated.
Undermines everything else that he said in it.
What our policy should be as a party is zero tolerance of anti-Semitism. Right. This is back to the 1930s. This is the stuff which led to the undermining of European and civilised values. There is no place for it at all. It has not been exaggerated. There is anti-Semitism inside the Labour Party. Some of the people very close to our leader are clearly anti-Semitic, and it needs to be driven out completely.
What about, I mean, obviously I hear exactly what you're saying about the language, but what about what is being done now, and him saying, you know, that he does say that there has been a problem and he's learned a lot. Could things change under his leadership?
Let me put it this way. The speed with which Diane Hayter was sacked is lacking in the speed with which we fight anti-Semitism. Now, Chris Williamson could have been sacked on the spot. Without anything, he was not sacked. Now, I think, you know, you really have to, this website and all that is too late. You know, in a sense, a lot of people who join the Labour Party know where anti-Semitism comes from, and not a lot of us know. And I think it is too late now, the leadership to start pontificating about, oh, what a terrible thing anti-Semitism is. They have not done anything to eliminate it, despite being told again and again that it is going on.
So do you both expect there to be a vote of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn this week?
Well, I genuinely don't know, because we haven't yet met as a group of colleagues to discuss it. There is huge unhappiness at the way that Diane has been treated. And as Megnad said, that she was sacked without even being told in a matter of minutes, whereas these really deep and reprehensible cases of anti-Semitism, month after month is passing, and they're not being tackled. We cannot continue as a party on this basis. We have the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, in a totally unprecedented action, is actually investigating the Labour Party as a party for anti-Semitism. Now, all I can say is, after what's been happening in recent weeks, I hope that investigation is thorough and it's completed quickly, because I think there could be significant repercussions from it.
You know, I'm personally ashamed, and I have been for some time now, and it's very difficult to hang on in the party which is so badly behaved.
Might you leave the party?
Well, you know, I've been in the party for 48 years. And you know, it's a deep commitment on my part. I've tried very hard to do what I can, and No, I think it will be very difficult to leave. But I think...
but it sounds like you've thought about it.
I mean, we may be sacked for having appeared on your program, and that will solve my problem. I may be expelled.
We're staying at, let's be clear, we're staying in the party. It's our party.
Absolutely.
It's the anti-Semites who should be leaving the Labour Party.
Exactly.
Not good, decent Social Democrats who, like Megnad, has been in the party for nearly 50 years and I've been in it for 25 years. We will take the party back for true, decent Social Democratic values. And look at the Brexit mess that the country's in at the moment. We practically have no government at the moment. We're committing going over the edge of a cliff as a country. It's all the more important that sensible, decent Labour Party people stick with the party and our voice is heard.
Thank you both very much indeed for coming in, Lord Adonis, Lord Desai. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, as we speak, the Prime Minister, Theresa May, is chairing a meeting of the government's emergency committee, COBRA, to decide how to deal with the seizure of a British oil tanker by Iran. Troops from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard got on board the ship on Friday. The foreign minister in the capital, Tehran, has said it was violating maritime rules. The Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, is expected to push for a global diplomatic response instead of immediate sanctions. Well, we can talk now to our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette. Hi, Lise. Thanks for coming. So what might those measures look like?
Well, there are, as always, there are measures of symbol and measures of substance. They can look for some kinds of sanctions, but of course, with the US policy of maximum economic pressure on Iran, Iran is almost sanctioned out. They could look for ones of substance, with the most dramatic would be, of course, to cut off diplomatic ties. It looks like Britain wants to avoid that, and it does look, and as you just mentioned, they're looking for a more regional diplomatic response. Interestingly enough, the kind of response they chose after the Skripal poisoning here in Britain, so that Britain doesn't just stand alone, that it has a solid, stronger voice with it, in this case, its European allies.
And just take us back, because it's a situation that's been escalating fairly quickly. How did we get here?
There's been tension in the Persian Gulf for some time. In fact, you can say that the tensions started to slowly ratchet up ever since the United States unilaterally pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal last year. But where the tensions really started to spike was after a new round of US sanctions, which basically cut off a lot of the avenues for Iran to sell its oil. This is the red line. If it doesn't have its oil, it isn't able to run its country. So therefore, end of April, early May, then we started, first of all, the attack on the tankers in May, attacks on the tankers in June, and now we have the seizure of this British flag tanker. In response, in retaliation, Iran confirms for Britain's seizure of its tanker in early July off the Straits of Gibraltar. So the difference with this one is Iran could deny the other attack, saying it wasn't us, it wasn't the Iranian Revolutionary Guards which carried out the attacks on the tankers in this crucial waterway. Now it can't deny it. It is in fact boasting that it has taken this tanker. It allowed Press TV on board the ship over the weekend. It pulled down the British flag, hoisted an Iranian flag, and it has now said that its investigation into what it sees as piracy will take a month, which is exactly the amount of time that the authorities in Gibraltar have said they will continue to hold the Iranian tanker.
So how many are on that tanker? What's happening with them?
We understand there's about 23 crew members on the tanker, Indians, Latvians, Russians, no British nationals on the tanker, no oil on the tanker, which is leading some observers, if we can look at it in this way. Iran's responses are carefully calibrated. They don't want to go beyond a red line, which could provoke a military escalation, which nobody wants, including Iran. But Iran has all kinds of pink lines, if you like. It knows, and it has the ability in the Persian Gulf to poke and provoke. What it wants to do is to remind the world that if they are inflicting pain on Iran and not allowing it to sell its oil, then Iran can do the same to others as well.
Thank you very much, Lise. Now, in the past 6 years, the private security company G4S has made more than £14 million profit over 6 years from running an immigration removal centre. That's despite an undercover investigation by the BBC's Panorama programme in 2017, showing detainees at Brook House near Gatwick Airport being verbally and physically abused by some of its employees. After this footage came to light, 21 members of staff either resigned or were sacked. At the time, the Home Office said it would monitor the company more closely and review its contract with them. Well, now a report by the National Audit Office commissioned by MPs has criticised the way the Home Office managed the G4S contract. It found that 84 incidents of abuse identified in Panorama's footage did not amount to a breach of the contract and did not lead to significant penalties. We can talk to Nathan Ward. He was a senior manager at Brookhouse for 4 years. He quit his job and became a priest after he says his employers ignored his concerns about the way the Immigration Removal Centre was being run. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Nathan. Tell us, first of all, what your experience was of working there.
So I worked within the Gatwick Immigration Removal Centres, which is Brookhouse and Tinsley House, for the period of time that you said. And I think it's important for people to understand that these are complex and challenging environments for people to work in, with complex needs within the people that live there. But the issue for me was that actually the system wasn't actually set up to support and look after those people in a decent and humane way, and the way G4S operated also was counter to that as well, and that's why in the end I thought the only thing I could do was leave.
And so what has come out today from the National Audit Office is concerns around the contracts, around the profits that G4S was making at a time of criticism about what was going on, that panorama footage that we were talking about, and questions about the contracts themselves. At the time of the panorama investigation, the Home Office said it would look at the contract with G4S to try to stop failures, in other words, have something of a lever against G4S, but it's been criticised today for how the contracts are being run. What's your view?
I think the main thing for me is that what the report today, which we welcome, says is that 20 pence in every pound spent of taxpayers' money was actually profit for G4S. What it also says is that the spending on staff training went up after Panorama, which means that, to be fair, G4S must have known that they were cutting corners before that time. And thirdly, the Home Office has finally admitted that the contract that they have with G4S is not fit for purpose. And what I would say in response to that is that actually the whole immigration detention system that we have at the moment is not fit for purpose, and this report supports that further.
So, I mean, on that matter that you mentioned, training went up, profits then went down because more money was being spent on training. In your experience, what was said to staff around these issues of training, and what was inappropriate and what was right?
Well, people were having to not undertake training because the numbers of staff were short on the floor, and so when you're working long hours, so originally the contract for staff was 48-hour shifts throughout the week, so they're tired, they're inexperienced and undertrained. What do we expect as a society when we put those things in place with some challenging and vulnerable people?
So now the contracts are being looked at again, and it's expected any new contract would include performance measures to cover all of these training issues, and also there should be a contractual role for the Home Office to monitor the appropriateness of the use of force against detainees and the care of staff and detainees following an incident. Do you feel like the spotlight is now being properly shone?
Well, to be fair, there's two things to point out, I think, in relationship to that. Within the existing contract, when I was working there, if there was a substantiated complaint, that would actually be a performance measure. So what we're seeing in this report is the Home Office haven't taken the issues raised by Panorama as complaints. We was always taught that if a detainee makes a complaint, whether it's written or verbal, we should be the ones that fill out the form. So it's clear today and evident that neither G4S or the Home Office have followed their complaints procedures in relationship to Panorama. And secondly, within the contract, there is an overarching requirement for the contractor, in this case G4S, to always look for cost savings within the operation of the contract and declare those to the authority. And then there's what's called a cost sharing initiative, where they then divide the savings between the authority and the contractor. And so therefore, to say that they're making 20% profit.
Okay.
Well, actually, they should be declaring that as some cost savings, because
Nathan, we're out of time. Nathan Ward, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And just to say, a Home Office spokesperson said we are making significant changes to the contracting model and have developed new ways to further ensure the safety and dignity of those detained are at the heart of what we expect from the provider. G4S say they welcome the report and are working closely with the Home Office to improve services. Now, we've some breaking news to bring you. We're just hearing that nearly 70,000 Volvo cars in the UK are being recalled over a fire risk related to an engine problem. That's just through from the manufacturer. No more detail on that, but we'll keep you updated on the BBC News channel throughout the day, of course. Now, England has won bronze in the Netball World Cup after beating South Africa 58-42 in Liverpool. The Roses narrowly missed out on a place in the final, beaten in the semis by the eventual winners, New Zealand. Let's take a look at the last few moments of the match that clinched third place.
South Africa, they have had an amazing Netball World Cup. They're going to finish in fourth. In 2023, the World Cup goes to Cape Town. But the buzzer goes! Tracy Neville wins a bronze medal for the England Roses here in Liverpool in 2019. It's another bronze medal for the England Roses. They'll finish in third.
Well, we can talk now to England Roses' most capped player and team vice-captain, Jade Clark. Jade, welcome. Good to have you on the programme.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, how are you feeling about bronze?
I'm feeling really happy that we finished on a high. Obviously, we were going for that gold, but I'm even more proud of the way we lost that semi-final, but we were able to turn it around within 24 hours. And it just felt like the whole country were behind us. Everyone got involved. Everyone was sending us messages of support. And that bronze medal match, it's like nothing I've ever felt, that wave of support. It was an absolutely amazing experience.
The bar was so high, the expectation so high after that Commonwealth gold last year. Did you feel the pressure of that?
We didn't feel it as pressure. We saw it as a huge opportunity, not just to get that gold, but to leave that legacy, to get everyone in the country playing. So we couldn't get that double gold that we wanted, but we definitely got everyone out playing, everyone watching netball, which is something we can really be proud of.
Change ahead. Tracy Neville standing down after 4 years in the job. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm happy that we could send her out on a high. I played with Tracy when I first started playing, and now she's gone from that to my coach, and she's just Roses through and through. And I think even though she won't be coaching us for the next few years, you know, she'll be backing us 100%, and we're sure we'll see her back with England netball in some capacity in the future.
It's a while to go until the next major international, not till 2022. It'll be the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Are you hoping to play in that?
Yeah, I've always said I didn't want to know when my last game would be. If that was my last game for England, then it would be an amazing one. But yeah, not making any decisions just yet. Just want to keep soaking in the atmosphere for the next couple of weeks and enjoying what's happening with netball in this country.
And you said obviously about the huge level of support that there's been and growing grassroots playing of netball. With that next international event, you know, some time away now, is there any danger of the momentum stopping? Because particularly after what happened last summer, it's really been building.
Yeah, I think just with women's sport right across the board, that momentum is going, and we want to keep that going. We've got Super League that's on, that will start next year. So yeah, all the England girls will be out pushing the sport further, and we just hope like the support continues in the media. We've loved seeing all the matches covered on TV, and it's been in the papers, so I really hope it continues.
Well, it's great to talk to you. Congratulations. Thank you very much indeed. Jade Clark, thank you.
Thanks.
Some more of your comments on the breast implant illness we were talking about earlier. Sarah on Facebook, I've had breast implants and a mesh implant put in 6 months apart. Now I'm very ill and I'm not sure if one or both implants are causing my symptoms. Michelle on Facebook, it's 1000% correct, yet time and again we're told it's in our heads and given antidepressants. There's much more about that story on the BBC News website. Thank you very much for your comments today and your company. I will see you same time tomorrow. Hope you have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.